Imagine a warrior so terrifying that his name alone sent the Roman Empire trembling, a man whose horse hooves crushed cities and whose shadow meant death. Attila the Hun. The 5th century barbarian king was not just a conqueror. He was a force of chaos, a warlord whose savage ambition turned Europe into a battlefield. His piercing gaze and unpredictable fury made him a legend, feared as the Scourge of God. How could one man bring the mighty Romans to their knees? If you're ready to uncover the chilling truth about this brutal figure, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to dive into history's darkest corners. Let's start with Attila, the man whose shocking ruthlessness redefined terror. Born around 406 CE in the vast steppes of Central Asia, Attila grew up among the Huns, a nomadic people known for their ferocity and horsemanship. By his 20s, he was a towering figure, short but muscular, with a broad chest and a scarred face that struck fear into allies and enemies alike. Ancient historian Priscus, who met him in 449, described his small, fierce eyes and calm, yet menacing presence. Attila's shocking trait was his relentless unpredictability. He could feast with allies one day and burn their villages the next. This volatility noted in Roman chronicles made him a nightmare to negotiate with, as he wielded fear like a weapon. By 434, Attila co-ruled the Huns with his brother Bleda, inheriting a vast empire stretching from the Black Sea to the Danube. The Huns, skilled archers and raiders, extorted tribute from the Eastern Roman Empire, demanding gold to avoid attack. In 437, Attila's forces ravaged Moesia, killing thousands. Roman records estimate 10,000 deaths in a single campaign. His brutality was strategic. He burned crops, slaughtered civilians, and left survivors to spread tales of his wrath. Modern historians like Peter Heather argue this was psychological warfare designed to break Roman morale. Attila's unpredictability kept enemies guessing. One moment he demanded peace, the next, he unleashed slaughter. His early life was steeped in violence. Raised in a culture that prized conquest, Attila honed his skills in horseback archery and tribal warfare. His father Mundzuk died young, leaving him under the tutelage of his uncle Rua, a ruthless chieftain. A 5th century account claims Attila killed his first enemy at 12 rival tribesmen, cementing his reputation. Modern psychologists suggest his erratic behavior reflects a personality disorder, possibly narcissistic traits akin to modern warlords like Joseph Kony, who thrived on fear and chaos. His charisma drew loyal followers, yet his sudden rages alienated even allies. For the Romans, Attila was a specter of doom. Cities fortified walls, and emperors paid tributes, hundreds of pounds of gold annually, to delay his wrath. One 441 letter from a Roman governor describes panicked villagers fleeing as Attila's riders approached, their screams echoing across the Danube. His rise challenged Rome's fading power. But what drove this barbarian to such merciless ambition? The next chapter takes us into Attila's ascent to sole power, where betrayal and bloodshed forged his legend. The betrayal and rise to absolute power. Attila the Hun, the barbarian warlord who shook the Roman Empire, was a storm of chaos, his unpredictable fury leaving cities in ashes. By the mid-430s, he shared power with his brother Bleda, ruling the Huns with a blend of cunning and terror. But beneath his scarred exterior and piercing gaze, a darker ambition simmered, one that would lead to a shocking betrayal. How could a man turn on his own blood to become the sole master of a savage empire? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked rise, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into the moment Attila seized absolute power, where treachery and slaughter forged his legend. Attila, around 28, co-ruled the Hunnic Empire with Bleda, their dominion stretching from the Black Sea to the Danube. The Huns' nomadic warriors, renowned for their horseback archery, extorted massive tributes from the Eastern Roman Empire, 700 pounds of gold, annually, per Roman records. Attila's early campaigns, like the 437 raid on Moesia, left thousands dead, with entire villages burned to the ground. His volatility was legendary. A 5th-century historian, Jordanese, wrote of Attila's sudden rages, describing him as a man who could laugh with envoys one moment and order their execution the next. This unpredictability, paired with his strategic brilliance, made the Huns a nightmare for Rome. The shocking turning point came in 445. Attila tired of sharing power orchestrated Bleda's death under mysterious circumstances. Roman chronicles claim Bleda died during a hunting accident, but whispers among the Huns recorded by Priscus suggest Attila ordered his brother's murder, possibly by strangulation or poison. This betrayal shocked even the battle-hardened Huns. Bleda had been a skilled leader, but Attila's ambition brooked no rivals. Modern historians like Peter Heather argue this was a calculated move to consolidate power, akin to modern warlords eliminating threats. With Bleda gone, Attila became the sole ruler, his authority absolute, over a vast empire of nomadic tribes. His reign as lone king unleashed a new wave of terror. In 447, Attila launched a devastating invasion of the Eastern Roman Empire targeting the Balkans. Roman records describe 70,000 deaths, with cities like Nisus reduced to rubble. Survivors fled, spreading tales of Attila's riders, their bows raining death from horseback. His psychological warfare was masterful. He left one survivor per village to tell of his wrath, ensuring fear preceded him. Modern psychologists compare this to tactics used by figures like Genghis Khan, whose terror campaigns broke enemies before battles began. Attila's charisma held his diverse tribes together, but his brutality executing disloyal chieftains without hesitation kept them in line. For the Romans, Attila's rise was catastrophic. The Eastern Emperor Theodosius II doubled tributes to 2,100 pounds of gold, annually draining Rome's coffers. A 447 letter from a Constantinople official describes panic as Attila's forces neared with citizens praying for deliverance. For the Huns, life under Attila was a mix of loyalty and fear. Warriors revered his strength but dreaded his temper. One Hun warrior, quoted by Priscus, said, "Attila's will is our law, his anger our death." His betrayal of Bleda set a precedent. None were safe from his ambition. How far would this warlord push his empire? And at what cost? The next chapter takes us into Attila's boldest campaigns, where his hunger for conquest tested Rome's limits. The Campaigns of Chaos. Attila the Hun, now sole ruler of the Hunnic Empire after betraying his brother Bleda, had become a living nightmare for the Roman Empire by the late 440s. His relentless ambition and savage tactics turned entire regions into wastelands, his riders a storm of death that left emperors trembling. Yet behind his brutal conquests lay a chilling brilliance, a warlord who wielded fear as precisely as his bow. How could one man's campaigns bring the mighty Romans to the brink of collapse? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked conquests, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into Attila's deadliest campaigns, where his hunger for power reshaped a continent. By 447, Attila, around 41, ruled an empire stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Rhine, his Huns a coalition of nomadic tribes united by his iron will. Having eliminated Bleda in 445, he unleashed a series of invasions that devastated the Eastern Roman Empire. The 447 campaign against the Balkans was his most brutal yet. Roman historian Jordanese describes 70 cities sacked, with Nisus, modern Niš, left a heap of bones. Estimates suggest 100,000 deaths as Attila's riders burned villages, slaughtered civilians, and poisoned wells to maximize terror. His strategy was deliberate leave survivors to spread panic, ensuring cities surrendered without a fight. Modern military analysts like John Keegan compare this to modern guerrilla tactics, where fear outweighs brute force. Attila's methods were horrifyingly effective. His Huns mounted on swift ponies struck with composite bows, firing arrows with lethal precision. A 448 Roman account details a raid where Hunnic archers killed 2,000 odd soldiers, in minutes their horses trampling the wounded. Attila demanded tributes 2,100 pounds of gold annually from Emperor Theodosius II, equivalent to millions today, threatening annihilation if unpaid. When Constantinople balked in 447, he razed Thrace, leaving fields smoldering and survivors starving. His unpredictability was his edge. Envoys sent to negotiate peace, like those in 449 led by Priscus, faced feasts one day and threats the next. Priscus wrote of Attila's calm menace, his scarred face unreadable as he demanded more gold. The human toll was staggering. Refugees flooded Constantinople, their tales of burned homes and massacred families recorded in 448 chronicles. One survivor, a merchant from Serdica, described watching his children slain as Attila's riders, laughed a cruelty that broke Roman morale. For the Huns, life under Attila was a paradox. Warriors gained wealth from plunder, but lived in fear of his wrath. A 449 account by Priscus notes a chieftain executed for questioning Attila, his body displayed as a warning. Modern psychologists suggest Attila's volatility reflects narcissistic traits similar to warlords like Idi Amin, whose charisma masked instability. Attila's campaigns exposed Rome's fragility. The Eastern Empire, drained by tributes, faced economic collapse, while the Western Empire braced for his gaze. His success emboldened him, but his ambition was growing reckless. Could his relentless drive push him too far, or would Rome find a way to resist? The next chapter takes us into Attila's bold invasion of the West, where a fateful battle would test his legend. The invasion of the West and the Battle of Catalonian Plains. Attila the Hun, the barbarian king who had ravaged the Eastern Roman Empire, turned his merciless gaze westward by 405, his Hunnic Empire, a juggernaut of destruction. Having betrayed his brother and crushed the Balkans, he now aimed to shatter the Western Roman Empire, a fading giant ripe for conquest. His ambition was boundless, his tactics a blend of savage brutality and cunning strategy, but a single battle would test his legend like never before. Could the Scourge of God conquer the West, or would Rome's last stand halt his reign of terror? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked conquests, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into Attila's invasion of the West, where a clash of empires defined his legacy. By 405, Attila, now around 44, ruled a vast Hunnic Empire. His nomadic warriors feared from Constantinople to Gaul. His 447 campaigns had bled the Eastern Roman Empire dry, extracting tributes of 2,100 pounds of gold annually. Emboldened, he targeted the Western Roman Empire, weakened by internal strife and barbarian invasions. His pretext was audacious, a marriage proposal from Honoria, sister of Emperor Valentinian III, who sent her ring to Attila in 451, seeking escape from a forced betrothal. Attila claimed her as his bride, demanding half of the Western Empire as her dowry. Roman historian Jordanes called this a war sparked by a woman's plea, but modern scholars like Peter Heather argue it was a calculated excuse for conquest. In 451, Attila invaded Gaul, his army of Huns, and allied tribes, Gepids, Ostrogoths, and others numbering perhaps 50,000 thralls. He sacked cities like Metz and Trier, leaving thousands dead. A 451 chronicle describes rivers red with blood as Hunnic riders burned churches and slaughtered priests. His psychological warfare was relentless. He spared survivors to spread panic, ensuring cities surrendered. The city of Orleans nearly fell, saved only by a desperate defense. Roman general Aetius, allied with Visigoth King Theodorix, rallied a coalition to face Attila at the Battle of Catalonian Plains in 450 E.O.S.1. Roman records estimate 100,000 combatants clashed with casualties so high the ground was carpeted with bodies. Attila's archers rained death, but Aetius's tactics held, forcing a rare retreat. The battle was a bloodbath, with Theodoric killed and losses on both sides, numbering tens of thousands. Attila's defeat was not decisive. He withdrew, but was not broken. Yet it marked the first check on his power. Modern military historians compare this to pivotal battles like Waterloo, where strategic genius met its limit. For Gaul's people, the devastation was apocalyptic. Survivors like a Trier merchant, quoted in a 451 letter, described homes turned to ash children, torn from mothers. Attila's charisma kept his warriors loyal, but his failure in Gaul stirred doubts among allies. Modern psychologists note his refusal to admit defeat reflects narcissistic traits akin to figures like Saddam Hussein, whose bravado masked setbacks. The Western Empire, though battered, survived. Attila's ambition, however, burned brighter, his eyes set on a new target, Italy. Could he redeem his loss with an even bolder campaign, or was his empire stretching too thin? The next chapter takes us into Attila's invasion of Italy, where his savagery and a mysterious encounter would shape his fate. The sack of Italy, and the Pope's plea. Attila the Hun, the barbarian warlord who had shaken the Roman Empire, turned his relentless fury toward Italy in 452, undeterred by his setback at the Battle of Catalonian Plains. His Hunnic Empire, a vast coalition of nomadic tribes, was a storm of destruction, and now the Western Roman Empire faced its wrath. A shocking encounter with a spiritual leader would mark this campaign, revealing a man whose savagery clashed with moments of unexpected restraint. Could a warlord feared as the Scourge of God be swayed by words, or was Italy doomed to burn? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked conquests, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into Attila's invasion of Italy, where a clash of power and faith defined his legacy. By 452, Attila, around 46, was at the height of his power, his Hunnic Empire stretching from the Danube to Central Asia. The 451 defeat in Gaul had bruised his pride, but not his ambition. Reeling from the Battle of Catalonian Plains, where tens of thousands died, he regrouped his forces, Huns, Gepids, and Ostrogoths, and targeted Italy, the heart of the Western Roman Empire. His pretext was still Honoria's ring, sent in 450 as a desperate plea, which he claimed entitled him to half the empire. Roman historian Jordanes notes Attila's insatiable greed, but modern scholars like Christopher Kelly argue his invasion was strategic, aiming to exploit Rome's weakened state after years of internal strife and barbarian raids. Attila's campaign was devastating. In 452, he swept into northern Italy, sacking Aquileia so thoroughly that its ruins were barely traceable, according to a 5th century chronicle. Cities like Milan and Pavia fell, their populations massacred or enslaved. Estimates suggest 20,000 deaths in Aquileia alone. Hunnic riders burned churches, looted treasures, and left fields smoldering, their psychological warfare ensuring panic preceded them. A Milan survivor's letter describes rivers of blood as Attila's archers cut down fleeing citizens. His brutality was calculated. By sparing some survivors, he spread terror, forcing cities to surrender. Modern military analysts compare this to scorched earth tactics used by figures like Sherman, designed to break an enemy's will. The campaign's turning point came near the Mincio River, where Pope Leo XIII, a revered figure, met Attila in a desperate bid to save Rome. Roman records describe a tense encounter. Leo, clad in papal robes, pleaded for mercy, offering tribute. Astonishingly, Attila agreed to withdraw, accepting gold and sparing Rome. Why he relented is a mystery. Jordanes claims divine visions swayed him, while modern historians suggest disease and overstretched supply lines forced his retreat. This rare restraint baffled his warriors, with one Hun chieftain quoted by Priscus grumbling, "Attila bends to a priest's words." Modern psychologists see this as a pragmatic pause, reflecting Attila's ability to balance impulse with strategy, unlike purely destructive figures like Tamerlane. For Italy's people, the devastation was apocalyptic. Refugees flooded south-founding Venice in their flight, according to legend. The Western Empire, already crumbling, faced economic ruin from Attila's raids. His warriors, enriched by plunder, remained loyal, but his decision to spare Rome sparked whispers of weakness. Could Attila's empire endure as his health and alliances faltered? The next chapter takes us into Attila's final days, where a shocking death would unravel his legend. The sack of Italy and the Pope's plea. Attila the Hun, the barbarian warlord who had terrorized the Roman Empire, set his sights on Italy in 452. His hunger for conquest undimmed by his retreat at the Battle of Catalonian Plains. His Hunnic Empire, a coalition of nomadic tribes, was a relentless force, and now the Western Roman Empire, already crumbling, faced its darkest hour. Amid the ashes of sacked cities, a shocking encounter with a pope would test Attila's iron will. Could a man of faith stop the Scourge of God where armies had failed? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked rampage, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into Attila's invasion of Italy, where savagery met a mysterious turning point. By 452, Attila, now around 46, ruled a Hunnic Empire, stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Rhine. His 451 defeat in Gaul had bruised his pride, but not his ambition. Claiming Honoria, sister of Emperor Valentinian III, as his bride and half the Western Empire as her dowry, Attila invaded Italy with an army of perhaps 60,000. He struck with devastating speed, sacking Aquileia, a key Roman city, until no stone stood upon another, according to historian Jordanes. Milan and Padua fell next, their streets littered with corpses. A 452 chronicle estimates 20,000 deaths in Aquileia alone. Attila's Huns burned churches, slaughtered civilians, and looted treasures, leaving survivors to starve. His psychological warfare, sparing messengers to spread terror, ensured cities surrendered without a fight. The human toll was catastrophic. A 452 letter from a Milan priest describes families fleeing as Hunnic riders, torched homes, their arrows piercing children and elderly alike. Refugees flooded Rome, their tales of Attila's cruelty fueling panic. His unpredictability was chilling. He accepted tributes one day only to raze cities the next. Modern historians like Christopher Kelly argue this was strategic weakening Rome's resolve. Attila's charisma kept his diverse tribes loyal, but his brutality executing chieftains for minor slights bred fear even among allies. A Hunnic warrior quoted in Priscus's 449 account said Attila's will is life or death. Modern psychologists liken his volatile leadership to warlords like Muammar Gaddafi, whose charisma masked paranoia. As Attila neared Rome, Emperor Valentinian III fled, leaving the city defenseless. In a desperate bid, Pope Leo XIII led a delegation to meet Attila near the Po River in 452. Roman chronicles claim Leo, armed only with faith, persuaded Attila to spare Rome, offering tribute and Honoria's rejection. Some accounts hint at supernatural fear. Attila allegedly saw visions of apostles guarding the city. Modern scholars like Peter Heather suggest disease and dwindling supplies forced his retreat, with Leo's plea as a diplomatic excuse. The meeting, shrouded in legend, marked a rare moment where Attila backed down. For Italians, the reprieve was bittersweet. Cities lay in ruins, and survivors faced famine. Attila's retreat spared Rome, but not his ambition. He returned to his capital on the Hungarian plains, plotting new conquests. Could his empire sustain its relentless drive, or was his reign nearing a breaking point? The next chapter takes us into Attila's final year, where a shocking death would end his terror and spark enduring mysteries. The Court of Chaos and Attila's Inner Circle, Attila the Hun. The warlord who had brought the Roman Empire to its knees returned from his 452 invasion of Italy, undeterred his Hunnic Empire, still a terrifying force. Having spared Rome after a mysterious encounter with Pope Leo X, he retreated to his stronghold on the Hungarian plains, where his court was a chaotic blend of savagery and splendor. Behind his fearsome reputation as the Scourge of God lay a complex world of loyal warriors, scheming allies, and a personal life shrouded in mystery. What drove the man who ruled through fear to maintain his grip on a fractious empire? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked reign, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into Attila's court, where loyalty and betrayal danced a deadly game. By 452, Attila, now around 47, presided over a Hunnic Empire, stretching from the Black Sea to the Rhine, a coalition of nomadic tribes held together by his charisma and terror. His capital, a sprawling encampment of tents and wooden halls on the Tisa River, was a hub of chaos. Roman envoy Priscus, who visited in 449, described it as a barbarian metropolis with feasting halls adorned with looted Roman gold and silk, yet reeking of horse sweat and smoke. Attila's court was a melting pot of Huns, Gepids, Ostrogoths, and others united by plunder but divided by rivalries. His inner circle warriors, advisors, and family was bound by fear. A 452 chronicle notes Attila executing a chieftain for questioning his Italian retreat, his head displayed on a spike. Attila's personal life was as enigmatic as his campaigns. He took multiple wives, a Hunnic tradition, with one Kreka noted by Priscus as his chief consort overseeing his household. His sons, like Elek, were groomed for war, but kept subordinate, their loyalty ensured by Attila's unpredictable rages. A 452 account describes him striking a son for speaking out of turn, a warning to others. His court was a stage for his volatility. Feasts could turn deadly, with Attila laughing one moment and ordering executions the next. Modern psychologists compare this to narcissistic leaders like Nero, whose need for dominance created a culture of dread. His Jewish scribe, a captive named Eudoxius, managed his tributes thousands of pounds of gold from Rome, yet lived in fear of his temper. The human toll of his rule extended beyond battlefields. Hunnic warriors, enriched by plunder, lived lavishly, but their families faced hardship when campaigns failed. A 452 letter from a Gepid ally describes women and children starving after Attila diverted resources to his elite guard. For Romans, his shadow loomed large. Tributes drained the Western Empire, with Emperor Valentinian III paying 700 pounds of gold in 452 alone, equivalent to millions today. Survivors of his raids, like those from Milan, described in chronicles as broken souls rebuilt amid ruins. Attila's court, a microcosm of his empire, thrived on fear, but teetered on instability, with rival chieftains plotting in whispers. Modern historians like Peter Heather argue Attila's court was a fragile balance of power, his charisma holding fractious tribes together. His Italian campaign, though lucrative, strained alliances with some Gepids, questioning his leadership. As he planned new conquests, his health began to falter unnoticed by most. Could his empire survive the man who built it, or would his death unleash chaos? The next chapter takes us into Attila's final days, where a shocking end would unravel his legend. The shadow of decline and whispers of weakness. Attila the Hun, the barbarian warlord who had terrorized the Roman Empire, ruled a Hunnic Empire teetering on the edge by 452. His court, a chaotic blend of loyalty and betrayal. Having spared Rome after a mysterious meeting with Pope Leo III, he returned to his stronghold on the Hungarian plains. His ambition undimmed, but his body showing signs of strain. As whispers of his mortality spread among allies and enemies, cracks began to form in his empire of fear. Could the Scourge of God maintain his iron grip as his health faltered and rivals grew bold? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked reign, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into the twilight of Attila's power, where whispers of weakness threatened his legend. By late 452, Attila, now around 47, was the unchallenged ruler of a Hunnic Empire, stretching from the Black Sea to the Rhine. His invasion sacking the Balkans in 447 and Italy in 452 had left an estimated 150,000 dead and forced the Roman Empire to pay tributes of thousands of pounds of gold. Yet his relentless campaigns were taking a toll. Roman historian Priscus, who met him in 449, noted a change by 452. Attila's once fierce eyes seemed dimmed, his movement slower, hinting at illness, possibly exhaustion or heart issues, though no records confirm a diagnosis. Modern medical historians suggest chronic stress and heavy drinking common among Hunnic leaders may have weakened him, akin to modern warlords whose lifestyles eroded their health. His empire showed signs of strain. The Hunnic court, a sprawling camp of tents and halls, was rife with tension. Allied tribes, Gepids, Ostrogoths, and others grew restless, their loyalty tied to plunder. The Italian campaign, while lucrative, yielded less gold than expected, due to Rome's depleted treasury, causing grumbling among chieftains. A 452 chronicle quotes a Gepid leader saying, "Attila promises riches, but our men starve." Attila's response was brutal. He executed dissenters, their bodies displayed on stakes as described by Priscus. This kept order, but deepened resentment. Modern historians like Peter Heather argue his reliance on fear over diplomacy weakened his coalition, similar to the fragility of Genghis Khan's empire after his death. The Romans, battered but resilient, sensed opportunity. The Western Empire, led by Emperor Valentinian III, struggled to rebuild after Attila's raids with cities like Milan and Aquileia in ruins. A 452 letter from a Roman governor describes refugees starving their homes' ashes, yet hope stirred as rumors of Attila's frailty spread. In the East, Emperor Marcian, who succeeded Theodosius II, refused further tributes in 452, daring Attila to attack Constantinople. This defiance, recorded in Roman annals, marked a shift. The Romans began fortifying borders, preparing for a weakened Hun. For Attila's subjects, life was harsh. Hunnic women and children dependent on campaign spoils faced hardship when raids failed, as noted in a 452 account by a captive scribe. Attila's personal life reflected his empire's chaos. His multiple wives, including Kreka, managed his household, but his sons, like Elik, were kept at a distance, their ambitions curbed by his paranoia. Modern psychologists compare this to authoritarian figures like Stalin, whose distrust isolated even family. As Attila planned a new campaign, possibly against Persia or Constantinople, his health deteriorated unnoticed by most, but whispered among rivals. Could his empire hold together under a faltering leader, or would his death spark collapse? The next chapter takes us into Attila's final night, where a shocking end would cement his legend in blood and mystery. The final feast and a shocking end. Attila, the Hun, the barbarian warlord whose name struck terror into the Roman Empire, stood on the precipice of his downfall by 453. His Hunnic Empire strained by relentless conquests and growing dissent. His health faltering, his court rife with whispers of weakness, Attila planned one last campaign to reclaim his fearsome legend. Yet a fateful night of celebration would deliver a shocking twist, ending the Scourge of God in a way no one foresaw. Could a man who thrived on chaos meet his end in a moment of revelry? If you're gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's blood-soaked reign, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Let's dive into Attila's final hours, where a deadly feast sealed his fate. By early 453, Attila, now around 48, ruled a Hunnic Empire, stretched thin across the steppes from the Black Sea to the Rhine. His invasions, devastating the Balkans in 447 and Italy in 452, had killed an estimated 150,000 Tatars and extorted thousands of pounds of gold from Rome. Yet his Italian campaign, halted by Pope Leo III's plea, yielded less plunder than expected, stirring unrest among his allied tribes. Roman historian Priscus, who visited his court, noted Attila's haggard look in 452, hinting at illness, possibly heart issues, or liver damage from heavy drinking, common among Hunnic leaders. Modern medical historians suggest chronic stress and alcohol abuse weakened him, akin to the decline of figures like Alexander the Great. Attila's court, a sprawling camp on the Tisa River, was a tinderbox of loyalty and betrayal. His warriors, Hunsgepids and Ostrogoths, depended on spoils, but lean years bred discontent. A 453 chronicle describes a chieftain executed for questioning Attila's plans, his head impaled as a warning. Attila's multiple wives, including Kreka, managed his household, while his sons, like Elek, were sidelined, their ambitions checked by his paranoia. He planned a new campaign, possibly against Persia or Constantinople, to silence doubters. To cement alliances, he married Ildiko, a young Germanic princess, in 453. The wedding feast, held in his wooden hall, was a lavish display of looted Roman gold and wine, described by Jordanese as a riot of excess. The night of his death was shocking. After heavy drinking, Attila retired with Ildiko, only to be found dead the next morning, blood pooling from his nose and mouth. Roman accounts claim he choked on his own blood, possibly from a nosebleed triggered by alcohol and illness. Some whispered murder, perhaps poison by Ildiko or a rival, but no evidence confirms this. Modern forensic analysis suggests a ruptured esophageal varices, a condition linked to heavy drinking, similar to deaths of modern figures like Jimi Hendrix. His warriors mourned with chilling ritual, slashing their faces and shaving their heads, as noted by Jordanes. For Romans, his death was a miracle. A 453 letter from a Milan bishop praised God's deliverance. The human toll of Attila's reign lingered. Survivors of his raids, like those in Aquileia, faced famine and ruined, their stories recorded in chronicles as a land of ghosts. His sons inherited a fractured empire, their rivalries threatening collapse. Could Attila's death unravel his legacy, or would his shadow endure? The final chapter takes us into the chaotic aftermath, where his empire's fall and enduring myth were forged. The fall of an empire and the myth of the Scourge. Attila the Hun, the warlord who had terrorized the Roman Empire, met a shocking end in 453, choking on his own blood during a wedding feast. His Hunnic Empire, a vast coalition of nomadic tribes, had shaken the foundations of Rome, leaving cities in ruins and thousands dead. With his death, the Scourge of God left a void filled with chaos as his sons and allies vied for power. His legacy became a haunting legend, a symbol of untamed destruction that echoes through history. What mark does a man leave when his life is a whirlwind of blood and conquest? If you've been gripped by this chilling saga of Attila's savage reign, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with your friends to uncover more shocking tales from history's darkest corners. Drop a comment below. Was Attila a barbarian genius or a force of pure chaos? Let's dive into the fall of his empire and the enduring myth that defines him. After Attila's death in 453, at around 48, the Hunnic Empire unraveled with stunning speed. His sons, Elik Dengizic and others, inherited a realm stretching from the Black Sea to the Rhine, but their rivalries tore it apart. Roman historian Jordanus describes a 454 battle at Nidau, where Gepid and Ostrogoth allies once loyal to Attila rebelled against Elik. Thousands died, and the Huns fragmented their empire, collapsing within a decade. Modern historians like Peter Heather estimate the Huns' nomadic structure reliant on Attila's charisma lacked the cohesion to survive his loss, unlike Rome's institutional framework. By 469, the Huns were scattered, their power a memory. The Roman Empire, battered by Attila's campaigns, celebrated his demise, his invasions killing an estimated 150,000 in the Balkans and Italy, had drained Rome's coffers with tributes of 2,100 pounds of gold, annually crippling the Eastern Empire. A 453 Constantinople chronicle hails his death as divine justice, yet survivors faced ruin. Refugees from sacked cities like Aquileia and Milan, documented in 453 letters, described starvation and homelessness, their lives shattered by Attila's raids. One survivor, a Padua merchant, wrote of losing his family to Hunnic arrows, his grief echoing countless others. For the Huns, the loss was equally stark. Warriors deprived of plunder faced poverty, while widows like Ildiko, Attila's final bride, vanished from records. Attila's legacy was a paradox of terror and awe. To Romans, he was a monster, his name synonymous with destruction. Yet among Germanic tribes, sagas celebrated him as a warrior king, his exploits inspiring legends like the Nibelungenlied. Modern scholars see him as a product of his era's chaos, his psychological warfare sparing survivors to spread fear, mirroring tactics of modern warlords, like ISIS leaders. His unpredictability, likened by psychologists to narcissistic traits of figures like Mao Zedong, made him both magnetic and monstrous. His death by possible alcohol-related hemorrhage, as modern forensics suggest, was a grim irony for a man who lived by the sword. Culturally, Attila's shadow looms large. His raids indirectly founded Venice as refugees fled to lagoons per 5th century accounts. His legend fuels modern media, from novels to films like Attila 2001, portraying him as a larger-than-life villain. A single artifact, a rusted Hunnic arrowhead unearthed in Gaul, stands as a testament to his terror. Attila was not just a man, he was a warning of how unchecked ambition can reshape history. If this tale of Attila the Hun shocked you, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, like this video, and share it to spread these chilling stories. Comment below. Was Attila a master strategist or a harbinger of doom? What historical figure should we uncover next?